You're celebrating Easter. To my mind, this is the holiest day of the year for the Christ follower. Christmas is important, but Christmas has been so much hijacked, so much twisted in its meaning, and there's so much that distracts us from the real message of it. Easter is a lot more pure in its focus on Jesus. Yet it starts like any other day in some ways. The disciples, the closest friends and followers of Jesus, both the 11 who are left after Judas has betrayed Jesus, and also the women who are very much a part of Jesus' ministry. Some are scattered, most are just waiting. They're so disappointed. This hasn't turned out like they hope it would. Some view Jesus as a religious, as a political deliverer who is going to free them from the bondage to Rome. Others of them, saw him as the fulfillment of the Scriptures, and they're confused. They're full of doubts. But there's work to be done, and as often happens, it's the women who are the first to get about the task of what needs to be done. Mary Magdalene and some other women we read about. John puts the focus on just Mary Magdalene. In chapter 20, she goes and with others with her to anoint the body of Jesus. But when they get to the tomb, something's wrong. The stone has been rolled away. It looks disturbed, and they find out he's not there, and they go back and they bring a report, and they're confused. They don't know what's happening, and so Peter and the disciple Jesus loved, that's John's humble way of referring to himself. Peter and John take off and they run, and John gets there first, and then Peter looks in. And the Bible says when Peter saw what the grave cloths looked like, I don't know, had they wrapped Jesus in some kind of like a cocoon and without disturbing those things, his body was no longer there, but something about those grave clothes, Peter just knew he was alive. What the women had said was really true, and John also believed. And what we have in the rest of chapter 20 and 21 are a number of different appearances. It's really neat that the first appearance then is to Mary Magdalene and these other women, those who had been faithful to go and anoint his body. Jesus' first appearance recorded in John then is he appears specifically to them. Later on, he appears to the disciples, but there's one disciple missing. Thomas isn't there, and Thomas says, he makes a statement. He says, I will not believe unless I put my hands in the very wounds, in his hands, in his sides. I will not believe it. Look at verse 26 of John chapter 20. A week later, his disciples were in the house again, and Thomas was with them. Though the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, Peace be with you. Then he said to Thomas, Put your finger here. See my hands? Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe. And Thomas, his soul is suddenly flooded with faith. He says, My Lord and my God. Jesus told him, Because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. There's a great couple of verses that follow this right here that really bring it up to the present and include us as if we're in that very room right there. Verse 30 continues, and it says, Jesus did many other miraculous signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book. But these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. John makes no secret about the purpose of this gospel that he writes. He says, I have written this that you may believe, and as a result of your belief, you will have life everlasting. In fact, 99 times in this book, John uses some version of the same word. It's the Greek word pistis. Sometimes it's translated believe or trust or faith, whether it's a noun or a verb. 99 times. And this is the invitation of Easter. It's not a day just about really cool hats and girls in beautiful dresses and little boys being awkward and can't wait to get that tie off from around their necks and let's go find the eggs in the backyard. All those things are nice. But the purpose of this celebration is to confront us with the same decision Thomas had to make. Will you believe that Jesus, who you saw him die on the cross, you saw him placed in the grave, but he didn't stay dead? And this is what separates Christianity from every other religion, because ultimately Christianity is not primarily a religion. It's a relationship. And it's a relationship with Jesus, who loved us to the point of dying in our place on the cross. That's Good Friday, but it wouldn't be Good Friday if he stayed dead. And today we celebrate his glorious resurrection.